Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Frankie's Open Mic. I'm Haleigh Overseth, your host. My co-host Alecia Maximo couldn't make it today, y'all, so we're just sending her love bubbles through the ether. But I'm here with Lauren Hanan and Alexis Quintal of Rosarium, and I'm so excited to see you, ladies. Hi, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, thanks for
Hi.
having us.
I know, so excited.
I'm so excited to have you gals here, and I really appreciate some ladies empowerment sauce energy on a Friday. I tell you what. I do. So,
Right?
I'm going to start over here. Alexis, I know that you're the CEO of Rosarium, so I'm going to start with you a little bit. Tell the audience at home who doesn't know a little bit about what y'all do.
Sure. Well, hello, I'm Alexis Quintal, the CEO of Rosarium, and we are really specialized in personal branding. That's kind of what we find is our secret sauce, differentiator of what we can offer. And so what we really focus on is helping CEOs, entrepreneurs, creators, creatives really help build their personal brands and enhance their credibility through podcasting, speaking, publishing opportunities, whatever it takes to get them more visible, right? I mean, nowadays that's I think a key word of 2025 is visibility. Everyone wants to be seen both online. They want to be more, seen in person too, right? People are back networking and at events and, attending conferences. But how do you make the full advantage of that and use it as a tool to grow your business? So that's what we're experts in and here to help and answer any questions.
I love it. And Lauren, tell me a little bit about your role with Rosarium too, because you do some awesome client support and talent reps and doing just general PR guru-ness. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started with Alexis in this fun little adventure you guys are on and what you do.
Yeah, so how I got started with Alexis was I actually hired her a couple years ago, and I
That's
just
a great.
loved, yeah, I just loved her, number one, and also the way that she operated, the way that she worked, so professional, got great results, and so I was just very happy. And at the time, I was working for another company, so since then, I no longer work for that company. And as of last summer, went out on my own and hit the entrepreneurial circuit. And then Alexis and I kind of touched base and I came on as the talent agent for Rosarium, kind of Alexis's right hand as far as talent management. And that's how we got started with that.
I love it. I want to know a little bit for both of you. What is it that makes you want to do what you do? Why did you decide that you wanted to go out and do something that was different than maybe what was expected of you or sort of the old, maybe corporate worlds that you might have come from? What was it that made you want to shift?
You
Yeah,
can go
I
first.
tried. Yeah, I tried. I think we all probably tried corporate, right? I mean, it was definitely beneficial for gaining experience and making connections and kind of just getting your foot into, in the door and in the industry. And it helped me also realize what I didn't want to do, right? Like
Mhm.
some of
Hmm.
the aspects of it I didn't love. And I felt like I could create a company and a culture that was more empowering to employees. It was more flexible to their lifestyles. It was more about creativity than it was about fitting in a box. And I also just loved marketing and working with entrepreneurs and business owners, right? They're so, inspirational. The fact that we all have the courage to do this, right? I mean, it's not easy, and it's definitely a difficult path, but something that is very fulfilling as well. So if there's any even small impact we can make to make their day and make their experience a little bit less stressful, that's what we're here for, and letting them kind of do what they're best at from the day to day, while we handle the marketing or the PR side, whatever it takes to help them make the connections they're looking for. So
Everybody's looking for less stress in this life, right? That's what
yeah.
everybody wants. We're all looking for ways to be more at peace. And Lauren, how about you? What was it that made you decide to shift over and try something different?
Same thing as Alexis said, really. I mean, really, I'd like to start with why I got into PR. I mean, I always loved communications. My parents said when I started talking, it was like in full sentences, and I would talk to anybody and everybody. And
I
um,
love it.
so yeah, so
That's ready to be the face of anything from a young age. Fantastic.
and
Mhm.
then my grandmother always reminded me that when I was in high school, I wrote in my high school yearbook that one day I was going to own my own PR agency. Isn't that wild? Like
Oh,
I was,
I love
I love
that.
it.
isn't that crazy? I was 17 years old, and this is like before. I think this is kind of like before PR is what it is today. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Impressive.
Yeah, this is like 25 years ago. Not to date myself, but
You just
and
knew that you were destined to like do the rad cool things before they were rad and cool.
yeah, yeah. I also said in the yearbook that I was gonna adopt 2 Chinese babies though, so that didn't happen. So one of them is coming true, the other one's not. But
Well, maybe the Chinese babies you adopt end up being like Siamese cats or something like that in the future,
maybe,
right? Like maybe
maybe.
it's a pets thing or something, right?
As
If you go
far
that direction.
as as far as my entrepreneurial journey, I definitely stayed in corporate for way longer than I wanted to. But I think it was always just like a fear of the unknown, a fear of like not knowing um, where you're going to get clients, or if you're going to have clients, and what if you lose one or two at the same time, and what happens then? And it really wasn't until I moved to Florida that it really solidified for me that I needed more of a work-life balance. I needed more flexibility. I wanted more autonomy.
Hmm.
And so finally made the decision last summer, like I said, to try and go out on my own. And yeah, and I'm just so glad to work with Alexis and to do the work that we do together.
I love it. You know, that autonomy element is probably something that you both deal with a lot with your clients because that's kind of a big reason probably a lot of folks come to you, right? That's what they're looking for is to be the sort of sovereign leader of their life and their life path and not necessarily following, again, what's expected. So, you know, to that degree, what would you say are maybe some of the things that you have been able to take from your own personal paths and journeys of like deciding to go with your own autonomy, you know, forge your own path, as it were, that you've been able to use to help your clients, that you've been able to sort of infuse that life experience into what you do to help others to thrive.
Well, the funny thing is actually most of what we offer at Rosarium is exactly what I've done to build my own personal brand and my own business. I just kind of figured out how to roll it into a program that we call the talent management program. But really, it's just what I've been doing the last few years. I did work in a digital marketing agency. I did work with brands that had millions of dollars to throw at like a holiday campaign to sell a pair of pants. But we don't really work with those kinds of brands, right? Not everyone has that kind of a budget. And, if you have a smaller budget, how can you still make a massive impact? And that's what I loved about like PR, just, social media and being able to have your own platform. And most of these things aren't free, right? Like it doesn't require $1 million budget. So I started kind of building up my own brand that way and getting myself some earned media opportunities. So, these are published opportunities or podcasting or speaking where you don't necessarily have to have that budget level, but you have the expertise, right? You have the knowledge to share, you've got a story. And, over the last few years, that's really the only marketing tool I've used for my brand and for Rosarium, and it's working. So, we're almost like a magnet. Someone asked me at lunch today, like, what's your lead gen tool? And I'm like, it's me. I'm a magnet of people,
Right?
right? And that way too,
I'm with you.
you can attract the kind of people you want to work with, right? If you're doing
Mhm.
traditional lead gen and you're putting ads out there, you're gonna get like a large amount that are not even a good fit for you. They're not
Mhm.
necessarily qualified to work with you. They're kind of just, clicking an ad to maybe get some sort of deal or, something like that. But I'd rather take the time and have the patience to build relationships with people,
Mhm.
find out what they're really all about, get to know them as a person before going into business and, partnering with them on something that's like so massively important to their entire well-being. So,
Mhm.
this is this is kind of what we've built, and I'm a good kind of case study of how it works.
I do love that. And yeah, Lauren, go ahead. I'm sure you've got awesome things to piggyback off of that too.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of Alexis and just say like one of the really cool things about Rosarium is the authenticity. And that kind of speaks to what Alexis was just saying, right? So it's you attract people who are similar to you in one way or another. And just the different kinds of clients that we have and the different conversations and experiences and hearing about other people's experiences, other people's desires, other people's you know, relationships. It's very varies the spectrum of you know, personalities and even careers and different things like that. However, there's always like that one common thread, and I think it's authenticity. And you know, when you meet Alexis, whether you see her on social media or you meet her in person, you definitely vibe. And if you don't, then it's like, okay, well then we're not gonna work together.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, that's the great thing. Again, I think about things like podcasts and social media, like you're saying, there's such a great avenue for folks now to be able to put themselves out there in really authentic ways and be the person that they are so that you can actually attract the people you'd actually like to be working with, collaborating with, and doing things with, right? Whereas, like, you know, Alexis, you were saying, just a paid ad. Well, sure, you can like tell everybody how great you are, but you might end up getting people that are really not a good fit for you to work with because you just like did the ad to do the ad. But if you're putting yourself out there in a more authentic way, okay, now you're starting to get people who actually genuinely want to work with you, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, talk to me a little bit about, again, with that authenticity Lauren's talking about, because that is such, I think, a big thing. Can you talk to me a little bit about maybe what you've sort of seen in your own kind of evolution with being able to be your own authentic self, how that sort of shifted your lifestyle, your perspective, the way that things sort of come to you, right? And then again, how do you sort of extrapolate that out and put it into what you're doing to serve the clients that you're serving?
Well,
What
I
have you
think when a
seen
lot of
from when you
people,
started, I suppose, right?
yeah, well, it kind of took me back to like high school because I feel like when everyone hears, I mean, everyone can agree that being your authentic self is, of course, like that's what everyone wants to do, but they're kind of, a lot of people aren't sure where to begin. And then they've got that fear and that like imposter syndrome. And a lot of times
Mhm.
they just say, you know what, forget it and just don't even bother posting on social media. And it's just suddenly,
Mhm.
you know, months go by and they're like, man, I lost a lot of that momentum, you know, that I could have had if I had just put
Mhm.
Mhm.
myself out there and gotten past that fear. But I think my story is a little different because I did experience like intense bullying when I was in middle school and high school. I was always sitting alone at the lunch table or, you know, having boys come over and pretend to like ask me on a date and then, you know, walk away and like joke with their friends, like, yeah, right, you know, we would never. And so after experiencing that kind of bullying for like 8 years in a row, you are definitely, you know, you've got that, not necessarily imposter syndrome, but at this point, you were just kind of like, I'm a loser, you know, but that's a fact. There's no even like leaving
Well,
any argument.
yeah,
So,
I mean, I think that's something that a lot of folks do. I appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable because I think a lot of people have dealt with that kind of a past and the things that where you're sort of taught that your self-esteem should be low by others around you. And
Mhm.
it
right.
can take a lot of courage to get within yourself and say, no, I'm still valuable. And I can't listen to that programming that came from outside of me. I have to believe in me and attract the people that would also support me and believe in me. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course. I mean, I think that if you're able to take a fresh start, like that's really where my life turned around is being able to leave that small town and move, you know, relocate for college and say, you know, I don't have to believe that, right? I can kind of change my own mindset and, you know, shift my own narrative. And even in a way that I'm putting out energy to people that they don't maybe didn't realize that I had
Mhm.
experienced that because I came off, you know, at least a little bit more confident than I was. And, you know, my journey kind of began there. So it takes away the fear of posting on social media. Cause I'm like, trust me, I've been way worse. So
Right?
it's easy.
You can't say anything mean to me on social media that I haven't had
Yeah.
people say to my face,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about
I
Lauren. I said, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that when it comes to bullying, a lot of times it's those people have low self-esteem, right?
Mhm.
They don't have self-worth, and it feels them makes them feel better to put other people down and to make other people feel bad. And that's I just feel like that's such a shame that people feel that way and feel that they need to act that way, you know?
Mhm.
But what I was gonna say is along the same lines. when I was young, starting from when I was young, I just always said, like, I don't care about fitting in necessarily. Like, I don't care about being the most popular, or like, I care more about being myself and being nice to people. Like, I remember in middle school, I came up
Mhm.
with this like idea in my head that I was going to compliment at least one person every single day in the hallway. Right? So it was
Oh,
like, because I
I
was like,
love it.
I'm
I
gonna
wish you were
put
in
that.
high school.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, right. But I was like, I'm just gonna put that energy out there because makes me feel good to make other people
Mhm.
feel good and to see that smile.
Mhm.
But again, when you're that type of person and you're a positive person and you don't have low self-esteem and you also don't really give a shit about fitting in necessarily, you become a target because
Mhm.
people don't understand you. And that, I dealt with in different ways, bullying and things like that as well. And I've just always had this, like, I call it like the it factor, right? Where
Mhm.
you're not comparing yourself to other people. You're just always trying to improve yourself and
Mhm.
and to live a positive life. And it's funny because one of my nieces, she has it, and she's only 7 years old, right?
Oh, I
Maybe,
love it.
but yeah, she's 8 years old now. So a couple years ago, I was at my parents' house and I was drinking a little wine, but I started like crying to them because I was like, I just feel so bad for Brooklyn because she is this authentic person and she's going to get picked on. And
Mhm.
but you know what? She's gonna handle it. Like, I know that
Mhm.
she will, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, kind of went off on a tangent about that, but
I really love that. I think a lot of people would resonate with that, and I definitely do myself that, I'm that person too that will just like get excited about somebody's stuff and shout. That's my love bubbles thing that I do. And I've
Mhm,
always been that, a little bit different because I'm more interested in being the authentic me and I'm more interested in, I don't really care what other people's opinions are. I don't care what everybody else is doing unless they're doing something fun and interesting that I'm curious about. And it does kind of make you that target. That is true when you are more interested in being able to engage in the world in an authentic way. And other people see that and they get afraid of it because they don't always know themselves well enough to be
mhm,
able to, like, seeing you embody your authentic self can be a real threat to someone who doesn't really know who their authentic self is and hasn't
right.
taken the time to sort of isolate themselves from society and society's expectations enough to decide who they are and to decide what is best for them, right? But that's
Mhm,
maybe, I think, probably why also we gravitate towards the entrepreneurs and towards this, like the
Mhm.
marketing and the social media, right? Like, because there is something to that where people who are willing to put themselves out there and be authentic are usually the ones who are willing to jump out and start a new business, take a risk on this new venture, maybe try
mhm,
something that may or may not work out, right? And might have some uneven footing to start with. But they don't care that other people think that you need to have everything figured out before you start an adventure. Like, well, it's not an adventure if you have it all planned out. Like, that's not, the movie's not exciting if there's not
Right, not at
some
all.
kind of, right? If there's not some kind of inciting incident or some wild thing that happens, you're not going to watch the movie. That's boring. Right?
so true.
True.
But that is, and that maybe kind of like brings us to a little bit of, again, some of the sort of what you do a little bit with the branding, the marketing, or when you're helping folks to, be even representing them for talent. You kind of have to help them build their story, right?
Mhm.
And not everyone knows how to build a story for themselves, right? Like, I will admit, I myself, like, I can build a story for everybody else so very quickly and easily. Writing a
Mhm.
bio for myself is like, what? I don't know. Like, why is that so hard? But it's because I'm just so curious about everyone else. And like, my passion is
Mhm.
to find out more about everyone else. So how do you
Mhm.
kind of work that in a little bit to maybe what you do or the kind of things that you might, maybe from your perspective, do to encourage your clients to sort of tell their own story or to sort of take the time to kind of toot their own horn, if you will?
Mhm. Well, I think it's about asking the right questions, right? We kind of give them the space to have that moment of like self-reflection. And it starts with just asking them, like, why did you get into this business, right? Like, what inspired you? what did you have to overcome in your past, that has made you a stronger person? And, we ask the deep questions that maybe no one's asked them before, or, or it's been a long time and they're in a new phase of their life and they're like, wow, this did impact me. But, it's a really important part of my story. And, they're usually pretty appreciative of us kind of pulling it out of them and then using it as, spinning it positively, right? Using it as part of their story and part of their credibility. So, but it definitely gets them out of their comfort zone.
Well, sometimes you have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting and exciting things with working as like the talent management is when we first engage with a client, we do a personal brand analysis and we look at their social accounts and how they're representing themselves. And then we come up with a couple of key topics that they can talk about, whether it's in the media or on a stage or whatever. But as we go along with clients, we start to uncover other topics and we start to flesh things out and build upon, their key, and we learn more. And sometimes with the clients, they're learning more about themselves, right? And they're like, oh my God, like I can talk about this too. Like I had this experience that I never even thought to talk about, but so many other people now I'm really realizing, number one, people are looking for people to discuss that on stages. And number two, other people have that same issue or that same enlightenment situation.
Well, and that's, again, I think one of the biggest elements here that I see for both of you that I think is really valuable is that you have a lot of compassion, right? You're not in this because it's not a bottom dollar thing, right? Which is where, again, going back to like the idea of doing just ads for your services. Well, that's about a bottom dollar. That's about just getting as many clients as possible, right? But the organic outreach and having compassion for your clients and real genuine curiosity about, who are you as a person? How did you get to be where you are as a person? Having that empathetic energy that you come from, both of you, I think is such a big part of why people would want to work with you and is such a needed thing in just across the board for so many industries, right? I think, and maybe you can speak to this from some of your clients and the experiences you've had, that those kind of old paradigms of just doing, again, advertising for the sake of getting the clients and just like pushing pushing the marketing just for the sake of the marketing or the product sell, and not because you're genuinely here for the impact you create in someone's life, right? Maybe what would you say when you're looking at your clients have been maybe some of the most fulfilling or rewarding experiences that you've had because you've been creating that relationship and because you've come from a place of wanting to create positive impact?
When you first were talking about how empathetic we are, I'm like, yeah, we are, but it's kind of a blessing and a curse because, we care so much.
I know how that feels. Yep.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's great. I wouldn't change it, but it also can be kind of tough in business, right?
I was thinking the same thing.
Right. In business, you need to have like boundaries, there's contracts, there's things in place to protect like both parties. And when you are as high and empathetic as we are, sometimes we're just like, no, it's fine. Like, you know what? We want you to be okay at the end of the day. Like, which is, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it makes it difficult to scale a business, So that's just one thought that I had. But the other piece to answer your question, like some of the most fulfilling moments has probably been just how close we've gotten. So even, for example, I hosted a party at my house for my birthday, and there was probably like 40 people, and like half of them were either previous clients, current clients, or people who were like, I'm going to sign on with you next month, right? Like, I just love the fact that I get to have that kind of close relationship with them to the fact like they're comfortable coming to my house and, letting like on a weekend, right? Spending that time where they could be with family or, with other friends or something like that. It's really fulfilling to just feel like we're getting to know them on a more personal level. And, at the same time, that means we also get to know their business even better because they're going to be more comfortable, sharing things with us that maybe they wouldn't share with someone that they only talk to like once a week on Zoom for, having a very professional, meeting once a week. So it's been really fun.
Well, I mean, we leave the corporate energy for a reason, right? Like you're not trying to bring that into the new venture you're starting. You don't want it to be the boring standard, you're just in a meeting. Like you want it to be fun and engaging. And, you know, one of the things George Monty, my friend, fellow podcaster, True Life podcast, George Monty always says relationships are the new currency. And I think he's very right about that. And, you know, building those relationships and being able to be a real person with someone and not just like, you know, not just a line item. It benefits both sides, right?
Yeah.
And Lauren, I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the biggest things that I hated about being in corporate. Well, and I've had a lot of experiences like Alexis. I've thrown multi-million-dollar hotel openings, but then I've also been on a very, very tight nonprofit budget on the other end. But either way, I think the office politics and like the have to, you know, you have to act a certain way, you have to be a certain way, don't talk to this person, talk a certain way to this person, stroke their ego. So like, and I've just never, ever, ever played that game ever. Like I refuse to do it. Starting from even when I was like back in high school, you know, high school, college, like that's why, you know, I didn't get the homecoming queen or whatever, because I was like, I'm not going to play the card. Like, I'm not going to play that card, you know, like I'm just going to be me. If you like me, great. If you don't, then whatever. But I think again, it goes back to authenticity and the empathy of who we are and how much we care, not only about what we do and how we're putting it, the company out there and ourselves out there, but also our clients and doing what's best for them and what's good by them, you know?
I think, well, that is, again, that's such a big thing, I think, for a lot of folks and why people are shifting from maybe the bigger corporate sort of big budget type companies to something that is more of the entrepreneurial startup, something that's more personal, something like from, you know, from Rosarium, where you guys are more interested in, again, building that relationship, finding out who they are and creating, generating impact and not just looking at, well, how much money is this going to make me? Right? Is this going to be profitable for me for a long enough time kind of
Right.
thing? Right? Like, no, am I really going to be able to make impact for people? Am I really going to be able to make it easier for people to be who they are, to like, how do I amplify your authenticity with you? Right? And I think that's so important. Can you maybe, from having been in those other settings, right? Again, because I get what you're saying with the politics and stuff like that, and that's me too, you know. Why do you have to stroke anybody's ego? Like, if you need to have your ego stroked, maybe you just don't need to have people like interacting with you all the time then. Like, maybe you need to go sit in a yurt somewhere in a desert for 2 weeks and figure yourself out, kind of thing. But from the things that you guys have maybe watched as this sort of shift has kind of happened, right? Like, and I would say that this is something we've probably been watching since COVID and the pandemic, right? Like, once things shut down and people had to go sit and be with themselves, there was a shift in what was possible a little bit, right? Like, now that you have to try to be creative about how you interact with people or about how you're making income, now you have to shift your paradigm and have to look at new possibilities and new ways that things could work. Would you say that maybe over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, with the things that we've sort of been through globally as a human community, how would you say that you've watched things evolve and shift more into a space of empathy and compassion and heart-centered business and people who are getting into entrepreneurial ventures for more of the right reasons now, you know? What would you say you've seen over the course of kind of that shift that I think a lot of us have been going through?
Well, Lauren, I think we both can speak to that because I learned today, I don't know if I realized that we both started our business around the same time, which was like a week before COVID hit in 2020. So we ourselves had to kind of experience the pivot. And, you know, it came with opportunity, but it also came with loss and, you know, just having to adapt. And so, you know, I think a lot of people can relate to that. I feel like I meet so many people that started businesses in 2020 and not even necessarily because of the pandemic. Sorry, Kat.
Love it. Cat's here to say hi. Love it.
Special guest. Yeah, even a lot of people I met were like me, were like, they were actually already had the idea to start the business before COVID, you know, and then it kind of just forced everyone to rethink, you know, what was possible. in both good and bad ways. But yeah, I mean, I think it's gone both ways. I think it's kind of pushed some people to be more authentic and more empathetic, but I also think it's created some like disgustingly hungry people that are willing to step on others and take advantage of people because there's more opportunities now for like scam calls and you know, I heard that now people can actually come to your door and scam you. I'm like, I'm never answering my door again. I work from home. Like now I'm scared. So
Yeah, I'm sure they've come up with new and inventive ways to like it's something that is just part of humanity, right? Like there's just
yeah.
that element that you have to learn to discern from a little bit of, and that's maybe part of what is sort of valuable about the experiences maybe that we've been through of, you know, maybe the bullying or, you know, having to just be who you are regardless of what people think, because you realize it's not going to make you happy to just make everybody else happy. And so like maybe over the course of like, again, this sort of evolution that I think a lot of people have been through where we're getting better at maybe recognizing where people are coming from energetically, right? Like we're starting to follow that intuition that tells us like, no, maybe that's not for me, whatever that is, or maybe that opportunity is something that isn't genuine, right? What are some things that maybe that you have encouraged for clients or done for yourself moving forward where you kind of do discernment of those, which opportunities are really valuable for a client and are really valuable for the brand or the business or the marketing? And how do you sort of keep giving yourself a little bit of like the pep talk every day, and that sort of like, hey, believe, you know, trust your gut, believe that what you feel is correct, and believe that when you sense something is off about an opportunity, it's probably correct, right? How do you discern from when something feels off to when it's like just the fear or that imposter syndrome also, right? Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Who wants to jump in first?
I'll go first. I'll go first on this one. So I mean, being really new to not working a full-time job. I mean, I've had my side businesses for 5 years. Well, my marketing business for 12, 13 years, and my fitness business for 5 years. But it's always been back burner, right? So it's always been, I have a full-time job. I do this on the side because it's my passion. And now it's no, this is my job. This is what I'm doing. And I'm still working through, feeling like I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough every single day. And I'm working 13-hour days sometimes. And it's like, I just don't feel like I'm getting enough done. How can I get more, and I feel like I set really high standards for myself, and I sometimes Alexis knows this as well. I'm a yes person for sure, and I'm like, yeah, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then it's like, oh wait, I just told 6 different clients that I could have something ready for them by tomorrow. Like how am I going to do that? So I think, I'm not sure if I'm even answering your question, but that's kind of like these things that pop into my head all the time, where I think that I haven't not that I haven't done enough, because I know I'm doing a lot.
Yeah.
But that it's
There's so
like,
much to do and so much to
right,
keep track of.
there's a lot to do. And especially when you have your own business, you not only are you working with your clients, but then you have to work on yourself, and you have to work on your business, and you have to work on promoting and growing and scaling at the same time as you're supporting, your clients. And that goes for fitness or with marketing, so it's a struggle for sure, but it's a fun struggle.
It's a balance, right? There's a different sort of balancing act that happens when you do try something that is not the standard full-time 9 to 5, right? There's a very different balance you have to strike when it comes to work-life balance. And there's often more than like on top of the imposter syndrome kind of thing. And I think that, Lauren, touching on this is a big thing that resonates with a lot of people. I think the sort of constant voice in you telling you that you're not doing enough, even though you're doing so much all of the time, right? And how do you sort of, and that's something, maybe that's just something that is in the human consciousness floating around, and because we're empathetic, we keep catching it, right? And that's something too where you have to sort of learn to discern between yourself and your client's emotions, right? When you're moving through, like, I'm trying to get all these things done and I'm trying to keep track of everything, and I, over promising and thinking, oh, am I going to be able to make it? Well, but we always do somehow make it, and we always do somehow overcome. And like, no, like you look at your past, and for me at least, and maybe you can speak to this. When you look at your past, it's like, well, but I always did get over whatever that hill was. I didn't fall completely flat on my face, and even if I did, I got back up. And sometimes I think that's maybe that it's that resilience that, Alexis, you talked about earlier. Being able to sort of take the hits as they come, because that's part of life, that's part of the human journey, and just get back up and try again anyway, right?
Yeah, I always say, don't ever tell me no, or don't ever tell me that I can't, because I will. Like, that's just fuel my fire.
That's
You
a
know what I
challenge
mean?
accepted.
Right,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
And I've been like that my whole life. I will find a way. And I think that plays into the entrepreneurial spirit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so tell me then a little bit, Alexis, like, let's hear from you on that one. Where does it come for you when there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome? How do you sort of coach yourself out of that, and how would you kind of coach your clients out of that?
I mean, I'm pretty blessed that I think I've done enough therapy and self-healing and letting
You've
myself
done the work.
feel the emotions. So I rarely have imposter syndrome, but I completely like empathize and understand why people do. And I think I'm pretty good at kind of almost like being their cheerleader, right? Like I'm helping like hype them up, like you worked so hard. I have a friend this morning who works just as hard as me. He's like eye on the ball all the time, wants to be successful, and then these like bad things just keep happening, right? And it's like one thing after the other, and he's messaging me being like, I just don't think, now he's starting to have the imposter syndrome that I've never heard him say, and I'm like, oh no, like that's when you're at a new low. But I'm glad that I'm the person that they feel like they can go to, even though it's not like I can necessarily say I relate. I'm still able to listen and, hopefully give helpful advice. And he's not even a client, he's more of like a colleague or friend. But, when it comes to clients too, they know they can call or text me if they're having a rough day, and I'm not going to judge, and I'm going to be, I'm going to hype them up, and, we're going to work through it and figure, something out. There's a solution to everything.
I appreciate that energy that you both have. That very supportive, like, we're here to help. We're all here to have everyone thrive. It's again, it's such a different energy and a flip to the old paradigm that people have always known, right?
Yeah.
The sort of following along and doing what you're told. And I really appreciate that you embody that energy, both of you, of, no, this is something we can do. It is possible. We can, you can grow. And even if you are in the midst of feeling a little bit of overwhelm or feeling like there's a lot going on, like, you still can, power through those things. You're still very capable. And embodying that is, a lot of people that's something I think a lot of people look for, like, how do I do that? And how do I find my way to be the me who embodies the best version of me? So if you were going to look at like the best versions of you and where you think you're growing into, right? What would you say is ahead for both of you and for your, the company and the companies that you are involved with? What's the big exciting things going forward that keep you striving and thriving?
Lauren, you want to go first?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit I'll talk about Rosarium, but I also am going to talk about my fitness and nutrition business too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm just so excited for this year. I mean, first of all, it's February, but I feel like time's flying, but I also feel like I've lived 10 years in the past 2 months at the same time.
Yeah, I feel that 100%. I'm with you.
It's wild. But I'm just, number one, super excited and super grateful to be working with Rosarium and with Alexis. I think she's an amazing leader. And what you were just talking about how much we care about our clients, and like you can text me anytime, right? Like we'll chat anytime, at night, early in the morning, whenever. And that's how it is. I mean, you have to have that you don't have to have that kind of relationship, but that's what makes this company what it is and why we are successful, is because you have that personal touch, you have that empathetic feel, right? And it's genuine, and we really do care, because we want our clients to feel great about everything that they're doing as well. So if you have to be a hype man or you have to be a shoulder to lean on, you're going to be there because you're gonna you want to help them be the best person that they can be. And I think, if you looked at like my LinkedIn profile, and it talks about empowering people, and that definitely goes through to my fitness and nutrition business. I'm all about empowering people, specifically and especially women, to feel their best, be their best, look their best. And, that's through exercise. When we talk about stress and anxiety, exercise releases a lot of that. And, when we're talking about nutrition, if you're eating bags of chips and chugging gallons of soda, you might not feel so great about yourself or about what you're doing. But if you're nourishing your body and you're moving freely, then you're going to feel a lot better than the opposite. So that's kind of the two things that I'm feeling.
I love it. I'm so excited about it. And I do love checking out your fitness stuff too.
Thank you for helping to promote it as well. I really appreciate that.
I love it. I love that you have the classes that you've had are so I love the cute little tags that you have. I love that you did the guilt-free Super Bowl thing, I'd be real about it, right? You may as well. I love it. And Alexis,
Well,
what are you super excited about? Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to say, fun fact, Lauren actually led our team meeting this morning. We have one meeting a month as a team on Zoom, and she led us through a fitness class. So it was so fun to see.
I love it.
Yeah, all these different things.
You've got in-house motivation and fitness right there for you, along with your talent rep. And I love it. Look at you, Alexis. Did you love how grabbing more? Right?
I was going to say too, to answer your question too, of how you said people maybe aren't sure where to begin, right? And be able to, not only fight that imposter syndrome, but feel like they can get everything done. And, I'm a huge component on scheduling everything. Lauren has access to my calendar. She's everything is scheduled, from my gym sessions to my recovery, to my date nights, to my events and social life, but also meetings. I feel I think, anyone that wants to think this way, I know it's not everyone's mindset, but if you do have things a little bit scheduled out, it feels a little bit less overwhelming, right? When am I going to get this done? Well, put the time on your calendar, right? Make it legitimate in writing and put aside a day and time. And yeah, not everything's going to work out, of course. Life happens and you missed the gym, because, your tire popped, or something like that, it can happen. But at the same time, it's going to be better than just winging it and being well, maybe I'll get up tomorrow and go to the gym,
right?
See how I feel. No, it's not an option. It's scheduled, it's planned, and you're going to feel better throughout the day because you actually follow through on something you promised for yourself. So, that's one tip I have. But one thing I'm excited about going forward is just, you said grow, which is my favorite word. My email is literally grow@rosarium.work. The word grow, I feel it's always about growth and, just continuing to blossom and bloom. And, you can start anywhere with growth. That's what I love about it, is you can still just be planting the seeds, or you could be really successful, but there's still opportunities to grow. So where we're at right now, we're excited is that I recently posted another job opening. We're looking for a talent manager and PR representative. We've got, some really amazing clients, and we just want to make sure, they're getting the visibility they deserve. And me and Lauren are two people. So how do we continue to expand and not overwhelm ourselves and, make sure we're bringing in top talent. So I'm excited to meet some really great candidates and continue to grow the brand and be able to scale. And the only way to scale is to bring on, more support, right? A great team.
Absolutely. Well, hey, everybody check out the website is in the links in the description. Go to rosarium.work, check out that. I'm happy to also help promote that position for you. Get you some good talent, get you some good people. because you deserve to have good support because you are such great support, both of you, to your clients and to the relationships that you have built. And I do certainly appreciate you both joining me on a podcast and sharing. And like, I love the ladies' empowerment energy here. I really do. And I know Alicia's going to love watching back. She was going to be so sad she missed it because she's all about the women's empowerment. So she's so glad that we got to have you on the podcast. But I do thank you so much for joining us. And just before we go, though, I do have all your links in the description. But is there anything specific other than the new job upcoming opening that you've got that you want to point people to, or that you want to direct people to for, you know, any of the awesome services that you offer?
Well, we do have a fun personal branding quiz on our website. So kind of narrowed it down to like 3 different stages, right? Whether you're still kind of planting those seeds within your personal brand, maybe you are blooming, or maybe you're at the harvest level where you're able to, you have a platform, right? How can you spread good in the world with this platform you've already built? So by taking the quiz, you kind of determine where you're at in those 3 stages. And then, you know, we send a follow-up of here's some ways that you could, you know, get to the next step. And of course we can support with that, but a lot of it is stuff you can do on your own. You just have to obviously invest the time and, you know, keep yourself accountable, but it's all worth it.
I love it. And Lauren, anything else you want to direct folks to besides, like, just maybe your foreverfit.com?
Yeah.
Also, we got that. I've got it in the
Thank you very
description.
much. You know, I didn't want to come into the podcast and make it about like my other business because I fully support Rosarium and Alexis and everything. But thank you very much. Yes, my website is yourforeverfit.com if you want to check me out. I also do corporate engagements. So for anyone who is leading a company and wants to do maybe some an 8-week boot camp with their employees or something like that, that's something new that I'm now getting into. So and we can do it all virtually, so I can do anything nationwide.
I love it. Very cool. Look at you. I love how much you're both just like rocking and rolling and keeping up with all the time. I do appreciate seeing wonderful lady entrepreneur examples in the world. Like, give yourselves a pat on the back for being just inspirational to entrepreneurial people everywhere. Like, I so appreciate you both.
Well, I appreciate you,
Yeah,
and I feel the same way about you.
Yeah, I know. It's been so good hanging out with you. Really.
It's been great. I would love to have y'all back again because we're going to have to chat with Alecia. She's going to have to get in on this fun party time or she's going to feel left out, and we can't have FOMO for our fellow lady entrepreneurs, right? So we got to bring her back. But I just want to say thank you so much again, and thank you to everyone who joined us and popped in live, and thank you to everyone who will listen and check this out later. And I will see y'all on another episode soon of Frankie's Open Mic. Lauren and Alexis, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.